time going live on YouTube. I have done live on Instagram, Facebook, and everything, but I've never done it on YouTube. So this is my first time. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Bear with me. I'm trying to set up a couple of things. And hopefully, since it kind of messed up and it wouldn't work and blah, 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 there might be some dead links that I sent out on accident. Yeah. So I am just clicking around trying to see if I can fix this. If not, we're just going to roll with the punches. And this is going to be, and I apologize, like the worst video stream ever. I'm going to try to fix it too. So welcome to the Homeschool Workshop. My name is Felicia Wright. I'm a family consultant and I focus on different remedies in well-being, health, and education. And today we're talking about education. I am trying to get this going. Ugh. All right, we're just gonna roll, we're just gonna roll, and sorry if it looks kind of jankety, but that is okay because it's my first time live on YouTube. Yay, I'm happy you can see me. All right, so in this workshop, I'm going to be talking about all the different Man, this is bad. It doesn't matter. We're going to keep rolling. I'm going to talk about all the different things to get started with homeschooling. So how you get started, I'm looking at my list so I don't forget anything, how to create a schedule, what you should teach, common questions, and how you can seek support. So let's go ahead and just dive on into that. And while I'm talking, if you have any questions, you can leave it in the comments and ask your questions, and I will get to them after I'm done with the whole spiel, because I definitely want to answer your questions and make sure to get you off on the right foot and have the best success you can with homeschooling. So to start, if you are ready to pull your kids out of the public education system, the first thing you want to do is look up your homeschooling laws. So the first place that I would suggest you go is hslda.org, and that is a website where you can look up the homeschooling laws within your state, because unfortunately the homeschooling laws vary from state to state, and some are vastly different than the neighboring state. And you'd be surprised that the requirements for this state are so different than the requirements for that state. So I'm in the state of Nevada, and as an example, the requirement out here is that you have to send in an NOI, which is a notice of intent, and you have to send that in either by the time they're 7, or if you had enrolled them in kindergarten and they're younger than 7 and you pulled them out, then you have to send that in. But if you haven't enrolled them, you can send it in once they hit 7. And that's pretty much it. Well, that's not true. You also have to put in a curriculum list of things that you're going to teach, basically subjects. So not necessarily curriculum, but you're going to put, I'm going to be teaching math with these things, social studies with these things, yada, yada, etc., etc. Now that's in the state of Nevada. And I want to point that out because in the state of Nevada, it's actually very easy to homeschool. You just send in the NOI, you say that you're going to teach these subjects, and in the state of Nevada, you are also legally responsible for your child's education. So what that means is you are in charge. You are in charge of their education. No one else is. You can't pass the buck on to somebody else saying well, they were supposed to teach them and then they didn't. It's no, you are solely responsible for doing this. So that's in the state of Nevada. Now in the state of California, I'm just using this as another example, it's very different. You have to send in a notice. You also have to teach during certain hours of the day. You have to teach certain subjects. In some instances, if you want to be associated with the satellite program, you have to go through that satellite program. There's way more options than there are out here. And that's why I want to hammer home that you have to know what the law is in your state before you get started. And I will put a link in the description to the website that I suggest checking out, because you just click your state and it'll tell you exactly what you have to do. So I only have to send in that NOI once, and that's it. Like in Georgia, I believe my sister's in Georgia, you will have to send in their version of an NOI every single year, basically notifying them that you're going to be homeschooling. So definitely, before you start anything, you have to look up your laws in your state and then decide from there if this is something that you want to do or can do. Because sometimes the law is a little different, and for one state, like I think it's Pennsylvania, you have to have a high school diploma to homeschool your kids, and you might not have one. And so there's a lot of different things, and that's something that you have to look up on your own. And if you have any questions about that, you can definitely leave it in the comments below, but that's something that you're going to have to go through. So the next thing, and you want to make sure you fulfill those requirements per your state, whatever those requirements look like. And after you fulfill those, oh, yeah, Georgia makes it easy. Yeah. I would even venture to say that Nevada is even easier than Georgia. But the next part is to make a plan for yourself. How do you see this going? Because you don't want to withdraw your kids and the very next day they're looking at you, you're looking at them, and you're like, what do we do here? And then you're just kind of lost in the sauce, and it kind of ruins the experience for you and the kids as well. And you want to start on a good foot. So make a plan. When do you think you want to homeschool? What do you want to homeschool? How are you going to do it? Who's going to do it? So, for example, like I've made a little short about this. Like I'll tell my husband, like, hey, like I don't want to homeschool today, or I had something else going on. Make sure you teach them this, this, and this. And then I come back and he's just like deer in headlights, like, it didn't happen, babe. I'm like, why? He's like, I just can't do it. So you want to avoid those types of problems. So make a plan on who is going to be teaching. And it could be both parents, it could be grandma. I actually had a client that I spoke to recently where it was mom and grandma homeschooling the child, which I thought was awesome because grandma used to work in a school setting. So you have to decide what that looks like. So let's talk about creating a schedule. Let's get into the nitty gritty of this. So with creating a schedule, and I'm looking at my notes here, with creating a schedule, you have to be mindful of the laws in your state. And the only reason I bring that up is because I know, like, in the state of California, you have to homeschool during I think they phrase it daylight hours or something to that effect. So know your law. But outside of the law thing, think about when you want to homeschool. So if you are working full time or your spouse is working full time, what is going to work for you and the kids? When are they on, meaning like they're ready to learn, or when are you on, meaning you're ready to teach? And then decide from there. So there's families that work full time, and then they'll work and then they'll come home and then teach. So your day might be in the afternoon, and that's okay, and that might work for your family. I've even heard of families doing homeschooling at night because a parent actually works overnight. So think about what you want your family unit to look like. So, for example, my husband, he just switched to night shift. So we're starting to stay up a little later with the kids just so we have more time together, which has been nice, but it's been challenging. So think about what your family looks like, what you want it to look like, and then plan from there, because you don't want to set yourself up for failure, because there's going to be tough days, there's going to be hard days, and you're going to be like, oh, like this isn't working. I'm going to have to send them back to public school, but it might be the schedule that you created for yourself. So keep that in mind. And then when you create your schedule, think about what you're going to be teaching. So on Mondays, maybe you only want to teach math and language arts. And then Tuesdays, you teach math and science. And Wednesdays, language arts and social studies. So you can spread it out like that, or maybe you want to teach everything every single day. I prefer not to do that, at least like kind of pick and choose like some different things. Um, but keep in mind that you don't want to overwhelm yourself and your child. So I'm a teacher. I know how to teach everything in one day. But I remember when I first started teaching, and I was so overwhelmed with having to teach all these different kids and all these different subjects in one day. And it was almost too much to bear. And granted, in that moment, I couldn't pick and choose, like, oh, I'm just going to teach math today because I cannot. I didn't get to pick and choose, but as a homeschooler, for the most part, within the law of your state, you can kind of pick and choose and slow down just so you're not so overwhelmed. Because I know what that feels like. And it's not a fun feeling when you are lost in the sauce, kids are looking at you, and you're looking at them, and they're like, what are we doing, mom? And it's like, I don't know. So don't get yourself in that situation. So if you're starting, start slow. Start slow with, okay, today we're going to do focus on language arts. We're going to do a whole group lesson, or we're going to do a whole lesson, and then we're going to have time to do some independent practice, and we'll do some practice together, and then maybe we'll go outside. So that way it's not this daunting task of like, I have to suddenly teach 5 subjects, and I'm not even necessarily an expert on these things. And I even felt that way in the classroom. Like, I'm not an expert on these things, but you roll with the punches and you learn as you go. So don't beat yourself up. I know a lot of parents beat themselves up that you're not everything for your children, but you don't have to be. You just have to take it one day at a time and try to keep it as simple as possible. Yeah, so, and one thing I want to say, and I know there's other schools of thought on this, and it just doesn't work for me, but I believe in structure for children. I think children do better when they know what's coming. Now, I'm not saying you have to be rigid, like 9 o'clock we're doing this, 10 o'clock we're doing this. I'm not saying we have to be rigid, but a general overview of how your day's gonna go, I think, will help you with behaviors in the long run. So I know there is the whole thought of unschooling, deschooling. You just kind of go with the flow. They pick what they want to do, and I think that's a beautiful thing. But within that, for myself, and what I suggest as a teacher, teaching hundreds of kids and seeing how kids thrive, there needs to be somewhat of a structure in there so the kids know, okay, in an hour, we're probably going to be doing something. We're going to be working, and it could be language arts or math or something along those lines. So don't make a schedule that's going to be so rigid where you're like, I can't do this. This is stressing me out. But don't have nothing where the kids are just wilding out like, woo, it's a free for all. And then you start to feel the effects of those types of behaviors, because that's not fun either. So creating a little schedule for yourself, I think, would be helpful. And having structure for the kids is essential, in my opinion, as an educator. Okay, so let's talk about what to teach. You have no idea what to teach, and I did a video about what to teach a couple months ago, and it's funny because as an educator, I know this. It's kind of one of those things. It's like in your industry, you know these things, but then when an outsider comes in and they're like, "You do that," and then you're like, "You didn't know that?" So I did a video about teaching without a curriculum. And here in the state of Nevada, this is the district, Clark County School District is the only district I've taught in. I've taught in charter, and I've taught in public. When I taught in public, I almost never had a curriculum. CCSD could not afford to buy curriculum across the board. My first school year, we had some old curriculum in the building. And they said, the principal told me, she's like, you can use this curriculum, but it can't be everything because it's way behind what we should be doing, meaning that it was made so long ago, it's not Common Core aligned, and it's not rigorous enough. That's the big word in education. It's not rigorous. We need to make it rigorous. So when I got there, they're like, you can pull from this, but it's not the whole thing. You have to supplement. So that was the most shocking part for me. It's like, oh wow, like I really have no curriculum. So and by we, I mean me and the other fourth grade team. So we were a team, we all worked together. We had to create lesson plans week by week that we crafted ourselves. We pulled from other places, and we created that and we made it work. So a lot of parents don't realize those worksheets that come home that we have graded, it's most of the time, at least not in the schools that I taught, they are from workbooks that we deemed great for that lesson and we photocopied it. So most of the time I was a teacher, except for 1 year, but most of the years I did not have a curriculum. So when parents tell me, it's like, oh, I need a curriculum, it's got to be accredited and it's got to be amazing. And no, like even as a teacher, I didn't have a curriculum. So I want to put your mind at ease that you don't need this super structured curriculum or super expensive curriculum to teach your children at home. It is, we do it in the classroom all the time. That's why, like, if you've seen any of my shorts, any of my shorts, I have shown like all these different workbooks that I have, and those are all the workbooks that I've used over the years to pull from to teach certain skills. So I have a ton of them in my closet. So think about it this way. So say you want to teach adding. You have a workbook that's on math and it's geared toward first, second grade, and you're talking about carrying or whatever. Then you teach them the big lesson as a whole group, like this is how you do it, and then their independent practice, meaning what they do on their own to practice what they've learned, is a worksheet from a workbook. So I actually love the idea of parents using workbooks to teach their kids at home, because not only does it focus on skills that the children need to learn, but also it has become now a portfolio for your children. So if in your state, some states require a portfolio, Nevada doesn't. If your state says, oh, you need to keep records on what you're teaching in a portfolio for your kids, boom, it's in that workbook and there's their portfolio. So that's really helpful for keeping track. But also, one major downside that I see that can actually be very easily avoided is that with those workbooks, it's skill after skill after skill after skill, which is great. But with the workbooks, you have to remember to teach that lesson before they're introduced to it in the workbook, because most of the workbooks kind of take for granted, like, okay, you've already learned this is practice. Workbooks are practice. So you have to teach that lesson. Um, you have to teach that lesson to your kids. Say it's about nouns. You have to teach nouns and then introduce that workbook with the nouns part to your child for independent practice. That makes sense. Let me know in the comments below. I hope that makes sense, because that's the major pitfall I see with parents when I've worked with homeschooling families. They just give their kid a workbook and they're like, okay, get it done. But the kid is just like, I'm doing the best I can, but I don't quite understand, because they didn't have a lesson prior to doing that skill within the workbook. So workbooks are great. Love workbooks. You don't have to have a curriculum. You can definitely make it work. And the beauty of Common Core, and I know everybody's like, oh, down with Common Core, burn it, burn it. Like, look, no. I understand why people say that, but the nice part about Common Core is that there's standards, and there's different standards for every grade level. So if you're sitting down and you're trying to plan out your week for your child and you're like, okay, I don't even know what I'm supposed to be freaking teaching them, I don't even know what they're supposed to know, you can look at the Common Core standards, and one of the threads will be like a literature standard, a child should be able to recall a story after reading it. That's like a standard. I think that's a first grade standard, somewhere along those lines. Um, so you look at those standards like, okay, I can teach that and I'll teach that in my own way. So you can look at those standards as a baseline of like, okay, here's something they need to know. I will start working on that. Second grade, I have a second grader too. Here's some standards. This is what they're supposed to know. And it's not the end all be all. If they don't know all of it, it's not the end of the world. And that's the great thing of homeschooling. But then it gives you something to teach. It tells you exactly like, okay, hey, I'm going to teach this. Boom, done. Let me know in the comments below if that makes sense, because I really want to make sure that people understand that, because I think we get so caught up in the whole Common Core thing of like, oh, it's so terrible. And yeah, it was not implemented right and it's not perfect, but at least it gives you a baseline of like across the board, we would ideally like all third graders to know this. So that's something that you can pull from. Also, so I talked about workbooks and not having a curriculum, because workbooks are just practice and you teach based off the workbooks, but there's also curriculum as well. And the beauty of curriculum is you have free curriculum in different places, and then you have all the way to like different paid curriculum that you can purchase as well. And there is a lot of different curriculums that you can purchase that are secular, non-secular, that focus on different types of things. I personally love project-based learning. So what project-based learning is, it's where you take a giant project and you incorporate all the subjects within it. So when I was still in the classroom, I taught the enrichment program for first grade, and that was just pull out for an hour. And we actually did a lemonade stand. And within that lemonade stand, we had to calculate profit and loss. They had to come up with marketing material. We read about marketing and how to run a business. So within that giant project that we did reading, we did writing because they had to come up with a business plan. We did math, and this is all age appropriate, so it's like on a first grade level, and it was a lot of fun. And we put all that together, and we actually did perform the lemonade stand. We set up the lemonade stand in the cafeteria, and we picked a nonprofit to donate the money to. And at the end of the week, we had about like $450 that we donated to it was an animal shelter. One of the preschool teachers ran an animal nonprofit. It wasn't a shelter, it was a nonprofit for animals, and we donated it to her nonprofit, and she was super excited. And the kids had to learn how to calculate, okay, this was our revenue, but we also have to subtract what we spent on supplies and all that stuff. So that project probably took like a month and a half, but within that they learned so much. So project-based learning is my favorite. There are a good resource to find project-based learning type lessons is on Teachers Pay Teachers. That's where I found a lot of different lessons, because again, I'm in Clark County, we pulled from everywhere. So I think for homeschoolers, doing project-based learning type things are super important and super fun for kids. Like, they love doing that kind of stuff. So we've done lemonade stands, we've made a ski hotel, we've done like this Christmas Santa thing, and it's so much fun. I enjoy it. Like, that's sometimes I pick because I want to do it, but we're not gonna talk about that. The kids love it too. So project-based learning is a great thing for kids, especially homeschooling kids. You can pick a curriculum. I have a list of different curriculums. I'll post it in the description of like free curriculums and ones that you can pay for that are available to you. But you have to decide, and don't be afraid to pick something and know what's not working and then let it go. Let it go. Because sometimes it doesn't work for you. Sometimes it's not working for your kids. So for example, I personally, I hope they don't hate me, I hate time for learning. I think it's awful. Hate it. Hate time for learning. But it works for some kids. I've used it with clients where they had clients that had their kids on time for learning, and they're like, this isn't working. I'm like, yeah, nix that. And then I've used it with my own kids. I just don't like it. Don't like it. And I personally don't like kids on computers all day. I just don't. So if you don't like something, don't be afraid to get rid of it. Trust me, school districts are constantly buying new curriculum and nixing it like the next year, which is ridiculous and a waste of money, but they do it all the time. So make sure you do what's best for your family. If you have any questions about that, leave it in the comments below. So I also wanted to hop into some commonly asked questions and go over that. So one of the first questions that I get often is, okay, so well, my kid is very social, and what about socializing them? Are they going to be hermits? Are they going to be those weird kids that you see, like, that can't interact with people and they're just weird and vampires? And I thought that too, to be completely honest. When I was teaching, right before I was teaching, I literally thought all homeschool kids were crazy. Like, crazy, weird, never gonna homeschool mine, never gonna do it. Now look at me. Should put a red nose on, right? So socializing your kids as homeschoolers is actually pretty easy. So I'm gonna go over some examples. So for example, my kids, they go to a tutor 4 days a week, and that tutor also has other kids there. That's one way that I socialize my kids. Another way is in the community that I live in, there are a ton of kids on this block, and all us adults have made friends. So when all the kids come home from school, not every day, because some of us be tired, but some days the kids will be outside and they'll all play with each other. So my girls are always interacting with kids almost on a daily. I can't tell you how many times somebody's ding dong, hey, can they come out and play? Like, we have that going on in this neighborhood, which is amazing and I'm very thankful for. Another way to make sure your kids are socialized is set up play dates, and that's an obvious, and you know that. Um, but another one that a lot of parents don't know about are called co-ops. In the homeschooling community, there's something called co-ops where you can sign up for a co-op, and the co-op is where a group of parents get together for, it could be almost anything, but there's usually a topic in mind. So, for example, it could be a co op to get together once a week so the kids can play together. It could be a co op where you bring the kids together and you do a robotics lesson. You could have a co op where they get together and it's just a library play date, or a theater co op. There's so many different ones. Almost anything that you can think of, there's a co op for it. And the way you find these is hop in the Facebook groups. Facebook groups, there's a lot of homeschooling groups on Facebook. There's a lot of parenting groups on Facebook. Um, that's how I know to find them. There's also, you can also do like just a regular Google search and look for ones in your area and hop in and be like, hey, I want to be a part of this. Um, there are, I mean, there's so many different ones that there's a ton. So think about, excuse me, what your child is interested in and see if you can find a co op for that. So my daughter, my oldest, she is interested in baking. So I haven't reached out to a co op for her baking because she takes some out school lessons on baking. But that would be something. My younger one, she loves crafts. We've been to a craft co-op. We actually went for a whole year last year. We also had a science co-op where they did science experiments too, which was a lot of fun. So there's so many different opportunities to socialize your kids, for your kids to be social. And I would venture to say that kids that are homeschooled are more social than kids in public school, and here's why. When kids are in public school, they literally only have 30 minutes, 45 minutes for lunch and recess, which isn't very long. And then when they're in class, they can work together sometimes. It all depends on how the teacher runs their classroom. So a lot of the times it's kind of like just get your work done. So don't think that kids in public school are, out here living their best life, being super social at school, because that's not always the case. A lot of the times they'll make friends at school, and then they'll have play dates outside of school, which is something you can do as a homeschooler anyway. So that is something to keep in mind. And I also, let's see, some other commonly asked questions is, can I do this? And my answer to you is yes. I have to say, I went through a whole teaching program, and when I got out, I felt like it didn't prepare me for much. Um, it was, I learned on the job. So when I started student teaching and I took over classrooms, that's really when I learned the most. And that's for everything. It's like death by fire, like get in there, get it done, and then that's when you're learning quickly, quick. And that's what's going to happen with you while homeschooling. Are you going to have 100% days every day? No. Is it going to be perfect every day? No. Like, are you going to make mistakes? Yes, all the time. I've made mistakes. I've had my children call me out on making mistakes. I've had children call me out in the classroom when I made mistakes. But it's normal. And I think we need to normalize making mistakes for ourselves and for children, because children are so afraid to fail. And as adults, we grow up and we're so afraid to fail. And that's not a good thing. So, normalizing making mistakes and, rolling with the punches and getting back up, I think is so important for children. And see, I'm getting up on my soapbox here. I'm gonna climb back down. But yeah, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Leave some. Let me know if you have any questions. I just want to make sure. Again, I had some technical difficulties. That's why the camera's so low and everything. Because this is my first time going YouTube live. So yeah. So also, I wanted to talk about how you could seek support as a new homeschooler, as a veteran homeschooler, how you can, not feel like you're alone in the desert, struggling on the struggle bus, in your home, crying in a corner, and feeling like you're the only one failing. And I know that sounds dramatic, but it's the truth. Like, as a parent, sometimes I feel like I am alone and everybody's thriving, and here I am crying in a corner. So, if that is you, reach out to friends, family, and let them know that you're struggling. And if you don't have any friends that are supportive of homeschooling, reach out to homeschooling groups. There are homeschooling groups on Facebook, and everyone is super, super supportive. I promise you, because we've all been there. And myself as an educator, I've been there too. I don't even know what I'm doing in this moment. So I know how you feel, and you don't want to give up so easily, because there's a reason why you took your kid out of public school. You have a reason. I don't know what it is. Everybody's reason is different, but you have a reason of why you took this journey. And remembering that and sticking to it, I think, is super important, because I don't want you to regret, like, oh, I tried homeschooling and it just didn't work. And you can definitely do this. Reach out to your community, reach out to groups, join a co op. I know a lot of parents and moms sometimes will be at home, and it's hard to get up and get out, but I would say get up and get out and go to a co op. Find something, find a library play date or something, and connect with other moms, because it's too hard to do this thing called life by yourself. It's just too hard. And this thing called homeschooling all by yourself. It's important to reach out and ask for help. So that's mainly what I had for you today. Let me know in the comments below if you have any questions, things that I haven't answered. I'm trying to think of anything I might have left out. Yeah, so let me know. I'm going to take a sip of water. I've been yapping my gums. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to move this around a little bit because oh, no, it's telling me not to do that. I got yelled at by YouTube. I want to make sure I answer any questions that you have. Let me see. All right. So bear with me. I'm happy I did this for the first time, YouTube Live for the first time, but I'm like, well, okay. I think that's good. I think that's right. So if you have any questions, let me know. But while I'm waiting for any questions that anybody might have, I want to talk about my announcement. So I said I was going to make an announcement on here, and I'm super excited about it. So I give my own drum roll. So I have decided, and this has been a long time coming. I have been wanting to do this for, my husband reminded me, for like 5+ years, but we're not going to talk about that. So what I have decided to do is that I am opening up a learning center here in the state of Las Vegas, and I'm super excited about it. It's called the Learning Outpost, where your child's education matters. And the Learning Outpost, and the purpose of the Learning Outpost is for families, homeschooling families, any families to come and get their voice heard and help their children excel. Because I feel like, and I know I'm not alone, a lot of parents feel like through this virtual learning, the constant shutdown, the constant unknown of things, like their kids have fallen behind, and there's staffing shortages, and not to mention, like that word I mentioned earlier, rigor. We're so consumed with what our kid looks like on paper that we're forgetting who our kid is and how we can support them. So the Learning Outpost is going to be a place for kids to come and get academics as well as social emotional learning, because that is super important to me. I believe that as a society, we're having issues because we're not focused on the whole child. We're so focused on our kids getting straight A's, whatever that means. We're focused on them looking the best, whatever that means, in their classroom. And we're not focused on who they are as a person. So, for example, I always use my daughter because she's easy. She's right there. My daughter, like, she does well academically, but her heart is in baking, and she enjoys baking. And I feel that when it comes to our children, we need to focus on where their heart is and what they're excelling at versus what they suck at. Because we all suck at stuff. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've struggled with building websites. It makes me want to cry. Just ask my sister. I have cried. I'm not good at it, so why am I trying to do it? So when we send our kids to public school, we're so focused on what they're not doing well at. It's like, oh, they're doing great in reading, but man, we got to get those math scores up, where it makes the child feel like, oh, there's something wrong with me because I'm not doing well in math, versus I'm such an excellent reader and I'm so proud of myself. So, with the Learning Outpost, I want to focus on leadership skills, social emotional learning, and academics, and helping children where they're at, because we need to stop focusing on everything that they suck at, and oh, we gotta go do something else, we gotta do something else for my kid. And then that whole process, they are beating, not only are we beating them up, they're beating themselves up. And I just hate that. I hate that. And when I was in the classroom, part of the reason I left the classroom is because I knew we weren't doing what was best for children, and it hurt me. Like, I felt a certain kind of way about it. I was like, this is not right. I don't feel right about this. This is terrible. So I'm super excited. Right now, I am looking for retail space right now. I have a couple of leads, and I'm super excited about that. And I wanted to let everybody know that the Learning Outpost is coming to Las Vegas here very soon. And I would love to hear from you. Right now, I'm crafting the program. The program should be up and running in the next month and a half, which I'm super excited about. But I want to hear from you. What, in your perfect world, what would your kids' school or education look like? Because I think it's important to factor in all parents' ideas to make sure we are doing what's best for kids. Because right now, what we have going on in the public school system is not working, and we have to do something different. Like we can't keep saying like, oh, it'll change, it'll change. It's not changing. It's not going to change until we change it or do our own thing. And that is what the Learning Outpost is. Like, we're going to do our own thing and do right by our kids so they can grow up to become thriving adults and feel good about themselves. So let me know in the comments below what that looks like to you. In your perfect world, what does your kids' school look like, and what would you want them to focus on? So if you are interested in supporting the Learning Outpost, I have set up a buy me a coffee site, not site. It's a link. Anywho, it's a link that I'm going to put in the comments where you can decide to contribute to the Learning Outpost. Right now, I have a goal on there of $250 to buy supplies for the Learning Outpost. So I'm going to, while I am here, I'm going to try to post it in the, again, this messed up, so this is what we're doing. I'm going to try to post the link in the description box for you. So if you would like to support the Learning Outpost, you can hop on to its, sorry, bear with me here. I'm just pulling up the thing so I can post it so you can see where we're at. View my page. So it is, so there, while I'm looking this up, I'm gonna pull it up. You can either buy me a coffee, but it's really for the Learning Outpost. So you can support with in increments of you can support a one-time payment. I think it's like in increments of 5. And then there's also membership levels as well. So the bronze membership level is, it's $10 monthly, and that will support the cause and getting the Learning Post up and running. And that's the bronze level. There's also a silver level where you will get my homeschooling planner, and you'll get my homeschooling planner, and that's $50 a month if you so choose. And then there's also the gold level where it's $100 a month. You'll get the monthly planner as well as a Learning Outpost t-shirt, and I will send that to you. So keep that in mind. So one-time payments or membership, completely up to you. But that is a way that you can support the Learning Outpost and getting it up and running. And if you happen to have if you happen to be in Las Vegas, let me know, and I will, and if you're interested in keeping up to date with the Learning Outpost, let me know in the comments below, and I will send you a page so you can stay up to date with what's going on, when we're going to open, and all that jazz. I posted, there it is. You should see the link. That's the link to, for the support for the Learning Outpost, and I'm super excited. I can't wait. Like, I'm a little impatient about it. So that is what we're doing. So I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Even if you're watching this not live, I'm going to leave, this video will be up for a period of time, and then you can also, you can still ask questions, and then I will hop in and answer those questions. So yeah, that's all I have for you today. Let me know what you need, and I would love to support you. And if you'd love to support the Learning Outpost, there's the link. You can support through the Learning Outpost. And yeah, that's all I have for you today. So I hope you're having a great day. Happy Monday. Maybe I should have did this on a Friday because it would have been easier. And yeah, so I'll see you next time. And thanks for sticking with me on my first YouTube live dance party. All right, well, that's it, and I will see you next time. Bye. Let's see. You're welcome.